The Closing Bell, Bloomberg's comprehensive cross-platform coverage of the U.S. market close starts right now.
And right now we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick here with Katie Greifeld, taking you through to that closing bell. It's a global simulcast. Carol Massar joins us now. Isabelle Lee in today for Tim Stenovic. Welcome to our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms, television, radio, our partnership with YouTube. A relatively muted end to what is still, Carol Massar, going to be an up week, but I was taking a look, well, don't take a look actually at some of these trading volumes because they are, is anybody working today?
It doesn't feel that way. We kept saying, it feels like stocks are crawling to the close today, just up a hair, but we're holding on to our best levels of the day as we go into the weekend, so maybe that's a plus, I don't know.
And when Carol said that, I said, so am I. I'm also just crawling through the week. We have one more hour to go, but then I want to bring this note by Capital Economics. They said that the S&P has held up reasonably well despite a correction in semiconductor stocks, but then they don't think that it will hold up to the 10% rally they're forecasting if semiconductor stocks don't join in. So again, it's really all about those semi-chips.
Yeah, well, speaking of semiconductors, you take a look at the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index today. Pretty
Is it up like
quiet.
10%? Or?
It's up about 0.1%, if that counts, which is pretty interesting. Its smallest move in quite a while. So muted interest when it comes to some of these chip makers in the U.S., though I will say there was a lot of interest around SK Hynix, obviously.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a good point, too. We talk about the volatility that we see around these chip names, and let's face it, I mean, the last few days, just this week alone, the previous 4 days, you had moves of 2, 3, 4% up or down on the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index, which has kind of become standard for it. So to see only a 0.1% move, maybe some of that was, of course, some of the wind getting sucked out by SK Hynix, which is like it's going to finish the day higher by 13%. Volume is low. Average volume at this time on the S&P versus the last 20 days, lower by 32%. But the S&P still finishes higher on the day and in the week, a gain of about 32 points or 0.4%. The Dow adding about 150 points or 0.3%. The NASDAQ Composite and the NASDAQ 100 each up about 0.3%. And the S&P mid-caps, Dow Transports and the Russell 2000 all finishing the day in the red. The Russell down 0.5 percentage point.
All right, guys, let's go back to the S&P 500 like I like to do. 338 names, Katie, in the S&P 500 higher today, 163 to the downside, 2 unchanged.
And let's take a look at this circle here. It was almost a perfect score, almost. You have 10 of 11 sectors in the green right now, led by materials, actually, your biggest gainer on the day, higher by about 1.1%, followed by communication services, consumer staples. The list goes on. It was a great day. What didn't have a great day, though, was healthcare, down by about 0.8% as a sector. A lot of those losses coming back to Eli Lilly shares.
Healthcare being a pooper, huh?
Yeah, there you go.
Come on, just turn green. We asked for so little. All right, let's go back to SK Hynix. We have to because it's what'd you say?
Never mind. Go ahead.
All right.
You have gainers today?
Huh?
Do you have gainers today?
I do. Okay. Starting with SK Hynix, up 28% at its highs today, finishing with a gain of about 13%. We know the ADRs. We've been talking about it all week long, looking forward to its U.S. listing. It was the largest ever U.S. listing by a foreign company, $26.5 billion raised in that ADR offering. They did trade at a premium over the closing price of the sole-listed common stock due to restrictions on exchanging the South Korean stock for the U.S. instruments. There's stuff that goes on. But it'll be interesting to see the momentum. Memory, it's all about memory chip makers at this point.
Yeah.
Right? The memory guys.
And did you listen to the interview? I mean, he talked a lot about, what was it, memory as a service or something? They're just making up stuff now. Is that what happened?
Well, Mandeep Singh, who was on, he thought, they were very measured in terms of their expectations, but the demand, they seem to say, is still there and will be for several years. So, all right, we will see. Time will tell on this one. I'm going to go over to Meta Platforms, top gainer in the S&P and the NASDAQ 100.
Yeah,
this
they did
one,
well.
They did do well.
And why?
You want to know why?
Yeah.
Yes, don't leave us waiting.
Okay. Tick, 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 tick. KeyBank Capital Markets analyst Justin Patterson raised the target on Meta to $7.90 from $7.60 a share. As you can see, the stock closing at $6.69 and change. Writing, there are 3 things you need to build: a true frontier model, data, talent, and compute. And they believe Meta is the only hyperscaler NeoLab on track to be a world-class at all three, and therefore has the best chance of catching up with Anthropic and OpenAI. Yeah. Actually, I think this was a different analyst who actually wrote it. I think this was Semi-Analysis wrote in a note. But anyway, some optimism.
Semi-analysis, yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. You're keeping me honest. There's more there, too, but I can
that's the only reason they pair us up. They're just like, Carol needs somebody, so.
Oh, my gosh.
Jeez Louise.
I'm just here for fun.
It's like being around my four brothers. Okay, so for something different, let's see if Romaine can interrupt me on this one. WD-40 up almost 25% at its highs, finishing the day with about a 10% gain. You know what they do, lubricant sprays and all that good stuff. Boosted its net sales forecast for the full year. Jeffrey's weighing in and saying that while sales are to move higher, higher costs are likely to squeeze margins. So maybe a little bit of a caveat, but nonetheless, big gainer in today's session. I am done. It is all yours. Get ready for Romaine.
I am ready. So we're going to talk about the losers or the decliners. Loser sounds harsh. So Datadog, tickers DDOG, shares are down by more than 4%. This is the lowest since, well, July 7, 2026, but the most since June 3. So this comes after Bernstein downgraded the software company to market perform from outperform. So the analyst there is cautious about their earnings prospects going forward. And he says not only do we start lapping tough comps in Q4, but we're also seeing demand signals flatlining. So I don't know if I've heard lapping tough comps in that context ever, but definitely not good news for the stock. Up next, we're going to look at CrowdStrike. So I don't know why I chose this. The stock is down, though, by nearly 6% because the only news there is the president and CEO, George Kurtz, reporting a series of insider stock transactions. And I want to just reiterate, even if maybe our viewers may know this, that selling 3.86 million of shares. It doesn't necessarily mean a company is in trouble.
We never like to see insiders sell, but sometimes they do it because they're supposed to. They have plans, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had to look it up to make sure, but it could be just them diversifying their personal wealth or paying for taxes, etc. Anyway, so market also didn't like that, down by 6%. And lastly, we're looking at Palo Alto Networks. So Needham raised their target to 425 from 350. They maintained their buy rating, but we still see the stock down by nearly 4%.
All right, let's take a quick look at yields. You did see a modest sell-off in that space with yields on the shorter end of the curve, primarily the 2-year yield, we should point out, up. That includes on a weekly basis as well. Your 10-year yield was basically, we'll just call it unchanged on the day, though we should say that pretty much across the curve, we did see yields higher on this Friday than where they were one Friday ago.
All right, guys, you know, it's pretty steamy outside. We know we've had a lot of hot weather. We've seen hot weather records broken again, certainly around the world. Well, this New York Times story definitely caught our attention. So with changing climate change wreaking havoc on, I guess, what we normally feel like are manageable seasons, we've got some people with means, check this out, equipping their homes and even their yachts with indoor winter wonderlands, aided by companies like the Italian snowmaker Techno Alpine. They blast snow onto ski mountains, but it's a snow room. It's more or less, Isabelle, the opposite of a sauna.
So I'm sorry, so you have this on your yacht, right, Carol? So what exactly is the point?
It's just so hot out there that people who have the means to do so are creating these rooms.
Like indoor snow globes?
Yes, exactly.
So instead of air conditioning, or what?
The description is it's a cave-like space of ice and snow. In some, white flakes descend gently from the ceiling to create the feeling of being inside a snow globe. I've never been inside a snow globe.
It is for those
Sounds very
who...
single purpose.
Can you convert to a sauna, I wonder, you know? Make it
does it change with the seasons? Now, it'd be cool if it was if like a little globe, like, you know, adjusted with the seasons.
No, you have to install a sauna.
Like biodome.
You know, to have a snow room, you need to have a house, though, it sounds like.
Okay, but not everybody wants a house anymore, do they?
Apparently, Americans under 40 are questioning the value of buying a home.
Did you ever see Biodome with Pauly Shore? Remember
yes,
that
we do, Biodome. I do.
All right.
Anyway, Katie, take it away.
All right, Katie, take it away.
Apparently, less than a quarter of Americans aged 18 to 39 say buying a home is a very good investment, compared with 38% of those over 60-year-olds. Basically, Bloomberg has this great story out talking about how, you know, the Americans under 40 are wondering whether or not it's even worth it to try buying a home. And I feel like, Romaine, you picked this to torture me.
Well, yeah, I mean, not that this has any sort of direct correlation to your life, but I mean, I also feel like when I read it, I kind of chuckled too, because I feel like every generation kind of goes through this. I mean, buying a home is such a weird thing because, look, long term, or even short term, it's not always the best financial decision, but we don't necessarily just buy homes for the financial return. There's obviously a lot more that gets packed into that.
Emotional return.
But even when we talk about the accessibility, it's the same thing, having to decide the neighborhood that you can afford and the space that you can afford and things like that, particularly in a high area place like New York City or San Francisco. Yeah.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
It's super expensive.
But then you have Carol, who has 3 yachts, 2 homes. And
Snow rooms,
Live on
the
snow
snow
rooms.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
you could have
but-
just moved into a snow room.
No, but I think what's interesting is that you do have
How many
generations.
square feet is that? Because in this city, you could probably get $4,000 a month for that.
That's true.
Carol, invite us, please. Romaine and I and Katie are dying to be invited.
Only Finley's gonna. I'm only gonna invite
Don't-
Finley,
don't
our
ever invite
producer.
me into
Can
our
I just
world.
tell you that?
She's scared.
No, I'm not scared. You don't scare me. All right, that is a wrap, guys.
Scared
Stay
of my bond
cool
with the village, so.
on the week. Good luck, Katie, with all your house stuff.
Thank you.
All right, that is a wrap. Our cross-platform, radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. We do call it the closing bell. We are not in a snow globe, though. Katie and Romaine continuing there on TV, and Isabelle and I back here on Bloomberg Business Week Daily on Bloomberg Radio. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you on Monday.